he has time for us little people. So let's go to the Zoom machine and say hello to the Count, Michael Bisping. I'm sorry for our tardiness. We had a situation there with Kevin Lee, who's in Mexico. And then, Mike, you would appreciate this as a media guy. He starts getting really deep with us, saying he doesn't know how to pay bills, doesn't know how to do all this stuff. And then his connection craps out.
Well, first of all, lots of things to say to that comment. Number one, I'm not a media guy. I'm a former champion, Hall of Famer, okay? You're right. Don't put me in your box, Mr. Helwani. Secondly, of course, if somebody starts going deep like that, then of course you got to give them the respect that is due. Thirdly, I also cannot pay a bill. That's why I have my wife. I can't even log into my bank account. She could be stealing everything. I have no idea how to log in or do any of that. Fortunately, my good lady, the long-suffering Mrs. Rebecca Bisping does that.
Wait, what do you mean? It couldn't be easier these days to go on your phone and look at your bank account. You have no idea how to do this?
No idea. We actually had this conversation last night, and she said, Michael, you just need the password. I'm like, I don't care. Because anytime I go to my bank account, it scares me. Just every now and again, sporadically, I'll say to Rebecca, okay, what's the balance at? And I'm like, oh God, I thought it would be higher. Do you know what I mean? But yeah. But things are good. Things are good. We're not going hungry over here. We're good. But I leave the finances to Rebecca Bisping. Used to be getting in the head. Now I take trauma to the head, but not in a physical way. I speak to people like yourself, which can cause great pain and headaches, but it's not a direct punch. And of course, I'm kidding. Great to talk to you, Ariel. As always, one of the best in the business. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing great. And that would just back up my point that you are a media guy, because you're doing a lot of talking these days. You're all over the place. You're absolutely killing it. There's a lot to talk to you about. I do have to thank you off the bat. A lot of people didn't come to my defense when I was being, bullied by a couple other media guys. And you came to my defense, Michael. I have some friends in this business who didn't say a peep, but you came to my defense. So thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, I'm not trying to take sides or anything like that.
Yeah, you are.
As I saw it. Yeah, well, no, I mean, you could define it like that. But for me, when I worked with you at Fox or ESPN, whatever, I'll be honest, you were always the epitome of true professionalism. You always turned up. You always knew what was going on. You had done so much research. And for me, certainly back in the day when I was still fighting, I was still a fighter. You know what I mean? So, but I would look at guys like yourself and see the amount of work and the attention to detail that you would put in. And it always stood out to me. And then certain people to say that you never played well with others, as I say, I mean, we give each other a hard time, but it's all in the best spirits. And I don't want to say that you've always played very well with me, because that sounds weird. But still, you have always played with me very well, Ariel.
Oh, no, this is going to get clipped off. Just like I've seen some of your other clips where the people are trolling you on your live chat. And you play it off well. You play it off well. I feel like all of these nice words that you're throwing my way, this is in a roundabout way your attempt to ask me this question. And so I will respond. Yes, I would be happy to consider to be your new co-host on your podcast. I hear there's an opening, but I would love to throw out a name, a new name, because I don't think we could go with Believe You Me, because that's very tailored towards you. So tell me if you like this name. And I only say it out of love because we're mates. I wouldn't say it to most people. So tell me if this offends you, A, and if B, you like the name. Okay, you ready for it?
Go.
Ariel and the Bad Eye.
Well, I like it. It's creative. I see what you did there, but it's not original, is it? Because I saw that floating around on social media.
Yes, it was. I stole it.
Ariel and the Bad Eye would be perfect. And I'll tell you this, and we'll move on from Believe You Me in just a second.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, of course, there's been some rebranding. I'm going to rotate co-hosts, you know what I mean, rather than get nailed down to one guy. So if you could find it in your time, Ariel, we would absolutely be honored to have you on there. But we really got to stop kissing each other's ass.
Okay.
That's not what people want to see.
All right. Well,
that's not what they want to see or hear.
If I'm being honest, I have to kiss your ass again, because you just went on this amazing tour across the UK. How many towns did you go to?
Yeah, so initially on that one, and thank you for bringing that up, and thank you to everyone that bought a ticket. So it was Tales from the Octagon.
Yeah,
I did four cities in England. I did Glasgow as well, pardon me, in Scotland. We were supposed to do Dublin, but due to COVID protocol, we had to postpone that. And, I am not a stand-up comedian, and that's not what this was. It was kind of a tour talking about my own life, but of course I've had a very coloured story. I've got wild anecdotes. So I dressed it all up in kind of a comedic fashion, but it certainly wasn't a stand stand-up show. And when this came around, a year ago, I was like, yeah, sure. But as it started getting closer and closer, I started getting more and more nervous. And then certainly, when I saw the size of the crowds and the people that attended in Manchester, the Manchester Apollo, which is a legendary venue, sold out, 3,500 people. And yeah, I fought in front of 15 or 20,000. But when you're just walking out there for 90 minutes by yourself, when you haven't even done an open mic night or anything like that, it's a little daunting. But I got to say, everyone that was there, they had the best attitude. I had just an unforgettable experience. Every night I thought, you can't top this. It can't get any better. Then every night just got better and better. And then it ended in Glasgow, and the Scots, they're a wild bunch. So they were up for a good time as well. And it was so good that 2022, we're going back with another tour. We've got 17 dates.
17?
October and November, 17 dates. And I'm not supposed to say this, but if you're on the opposite side of the world, if you could be somewhere that maybe people call down under, then maybe I'll be coming to see you next year as well. But I'm not supposed to say anything.
Okay.
Australia and New Zealand.
Wow, that is amazing. So let me ask you this. Is it possible that you were more nervous doing that than fighting Anderson Silva at the O2?
To be honest, that was kind of like my opening bit, because people always said, I bet you'd rather be in the octagon than doing this. And I'm like, well, if I was in the octagon, I'd be stood opposite Anderson Silva right now, about to have my face obliterated. But it was a different type of nerves. I remember when I first ever did my first ever acting role. Tap Out did a bunch of movies back in the day, and I got offered a part. And of course I took it because it's exciting, and who doesn't want to be a part of an action movie, right? But I'd never acted before. I'd never done anything like that. But of course I prepared. I worked with an acting coach. But when I got on set in Austin, Texas, I remember we were stood in this kitchen. I had to walk out the kitchen and do the scene. The nerves. Oh my God. I was like, put me in an octagon any day of the week. But it went well. And regarding the tour, again, very, very nervous, but good nerves. It was anxiety simply because I wanted people to enjoy themselves. People have parted ways with their hard-earned money. I want them to enjoy that. That's why I felt the pressure. But as I say, I'm pretty sure that everyone had an amazing time. The feedback was incredible.
Well, I also think, and I think I said this to you privately, it was the perfect storm, because especially over there, they've been jonesing for something MMA related. You are the face of UK MMA. You always be that. You come back after the pandemic. I'm sure people were just like foaming at the mouth just to get out and have a good time and be close to you, right? Like, I mean, the timing couldn't have been more perfect.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was foaming at the mouth.
Yes, trust me. I've seen your fans. They look like they have rabies.
Definitely they were, people have been starved of entertainment for a long time. So I guess in that regard, it was kind of perfect timing. But yeah, again, the panic, the passion and the energy that I saw from everyone, it was mind blowing, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to go back and do it in the UK. And because I had my last ever fight in China. And no disrespect to the Chinese community, no disrespect whatsoever, but that's not what forged my career. I forged my career in the UK. I was unbeaten in the UK. And in my mind, I always wanted one last fight where I could go back and fight in London, put my gloves down in the center of the octagon. That whole thing, you romance it in your head like it's this big moment. But of course, I lost an eye. And my friend said, Michael, what are you doing? You're building this up in your mind. And Ori Atar said the same thing as well. I said, Michael, you're dramatizing this in your mind like it's going to be this big, beautiful moment. And I'm sure it would have been a nice moment. But is it worth going blind for, risking your entire vision for? And of course, the answer was no. So that's partly why I wanted to go back, to show my appreciation for the support that I had over the years.
The next time they went back to the UK, when you were debating this, why didn't they just play your music, you come out, you say something to the audience and put the gloves in and have that moment without getting punched? Why didn't they just do that? And then I feel like that would have sufficed.
Well, it would have done, but as always, you like to stir the pot. But the UFC actually went one better. They went one better than that because I got inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Is that better?
Well, it's pretty goddamn good.
It's in Las Vegas. I feel like to you, it would have meant...
No, but when I was in London, it was 2019 for the Darren Till versus Masvidal fight.
Yeah.
They ran the feature in the octagon. I got a standing ovation. So I got inducted into the Hall of Fame. So,
where were the gloves? I wanted the gloves in the cage. Like, I wanted you to walk into the cage, take off the gloves and put them in there and then walk out. Song 2,
Yeah, well, that's why we got Tales of the Octagon, buddy. Can't have everything you want in this life.
Now, do you have to repeat the same story 17 times next year? How are you going to do this?
Well, obviously I'm going to tweak it because, you know, I'm going to be in international markets. I'm going to be in Norway. I'm going to be in Sweden. I'm going to be in Amsterdam, places like that. So, number one, I'm assuming these have a good command of the English language because my Dutch and Swedish is not on par. But yeah, no, I'm going to tweak it a little bit. And even when I was in the UK, the show that I did in London evolved by the time I got to Glasgow. You know what I mean? And I evolved as not a comedian, as a showman, if you will, on stage. Yeah, no, it was an unreal experience, but every night it got different and different. And now after having done it 4 times, I'm filled with ideas. I'm like, okay, here's what I could have done there. Here's what I could do there. So yeah, I've got a year to prepare and a year to tweak, take this story out, add that one in there, remove this one about my love for the UK. And oh, you guys were so amazing, because in Norway, they might be like, we're not in England, buddy. Do you know what I mean? So I'll tweak it, but the essence of the show will kind of be the same thing.
Do you have a prompter?
My downs.
Prompter, notes? Do you have notes, prompter?
Oh, no teleprompter.
Wow.
So I went out there for 90 minutes because I was supposed to have someone on stage with me the whole time, but then that kind of fell out. So it became me by myself on stage for 90 minutes. That wasn't the plan. And so the 3 weeks before it, I lost a tremendous amount of weight, because I was riddled with anxiety and sleepless nights, but also because I have this run that I do by my house out in the hills. But I was doing that every day, but I wasn't running. I was walking. I was just rehearsing it into my phone day in, day out. But I didn't want a teleprompter because I don't want it to be robotic. I don't want it to seem like I'm reading off a teleprompter. I got to speak from the heart. That's got to be off the cuff, react to the audience. And the thing was, we were supposed to have a Q&A at the end of every one. But the show ran so long, and then the audience participation and people bringing me drinks on stage and 3,000 people chanting, down it, down it. I was hammered by the time I came off stage every night. And we didn't have time for a Q&A because, you know, it just ran over every time.
So next year, you say it's October, November is the next tour? Okay,
October and November, we're going to be doing the UK again and mainland Europe, various countries. And then, yeah, I'm not supposed to say anything, but down under in November.
I feel like that was, again, a subtle way. If you need me to be the Q&A guy for you to help you out, I mean, I could talk to my people. We can try to cut a deal.
We also are having some American dates.
Oh,
so,
wow. You know, well, you're probably going to give it to like Gareth or one of these other guys that claim to be
No, come on. You're the number one guy, Ariel. Everyone knows this. Everyone knows this.
It would be weird if more people came for me than for you to your own show.
Well, that would be weird, but still, on the deal that we're going to cut, I'll still benefit financially incredibly.
Now, the other thing is, and we're really going like inside baseball here, if you know that term, but I'm fascinated by this stuff because lately, Michael, and I shouted you out as well, you're killing it on the YouTube page. And I think this is very interesting because you are, I mean, my buddy DC totally ripping you off, let's be honest. Now, maybe you took a page out of Chael Sonnen, who was one of the first to do it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what prompted this? Because now you're like a machine. Every day there's a new video from you.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. I never had, I didn't know there was this whole YouTube world out there. And I actually didn't know how much revenue there is to be generated from it. I'm like, holy shit, I got to get involved. I'm a little late to the party, but I'm wading into that party, hammered, drunk, and taking over. Because, yeah, no, I was doing the podcast, you know, obviously, believe you me. And then that's kind of what inspired me because I realized that there's such a market, you know, business opportunities via YouTube. So, yeah, I started doing the videos myself. I did a couple actually just to oblige a sponsorship responsibility. And I thought I'll stick it on my YouTube because I had a YouTube channel, but I never used it. So I had like 100 followers or something. It was embarrassing, but I thought, well, you got to start somewhere. And then the support was overwhelming, you know, and we're at 250,000 subscribers, like over 6 weeks or something like that. I've got a brilliant producer, Brantendo, and we're actually in the midst of hiring out a studio. We're building multiple sets. We're launching multiple shows. It's really, really exciting. And I never thought at 42 years old, I'd be sitting here and getting so invested in the YouTube business, but it's actually very rewarding. And when it's something of your own, which you've built, you know what I mean? And no one can tell me what to do. And it's my channel and it's my vision and all the rest of it. It feels nice.
And so, I mean, that's the other thing. The production value is great. Where's that studio, by the way? Is that in your house? Where not this one here, because I think this one is in your house, but the one where you do the YouTube videos, that's a high quality set with the lighting and everything like that. Where is that?
Yeah, this is actually here. It's all in the lighting, buddy. Hold on.
Oh.
It's us. We got lights everywhere.
Wow.
The producer's very, very clever at, creating mood lighting and stuff. And
it's great.
So we've invested in a lot of sound and lighting and camera equipment and whatnot. And the production's really good. But as I say, we're going to develop multiple sets because every day you don't want the same backdrop.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
We want to vary it up a little bit. And we've got some ideas for some shows that we're going to be dropping. So it's exciting times. And on top of everything else, the tours and obviously the UFC commentary, I'm releasing my own NFT series with blockacid.co with myself, Wayne Rooney, and a bunch of other sporting legends. So go to blockacid.co. The NFT drops start of November, and they're going to be mind-blowing. You can win a trip to a UFC event. You can come for a training session with me in Los Angeles, all types of stuff. So blockacid.co, check that out. Yeah, there's not enough hours in the day at the moment, Ariel, but as a former fighter, and I think not only fighters, most athletes, they're always terrified of their post-athletic career, and that always scared me. I didn't want to go back to working in the factories or whatever and being broke again and sitting there and thinking, remember those days that were good, So, that's what kind of kept me fighting and sticking around so long, even when my body was broken. But yeah, I'm very happy and fortunate and lucky to say that things are going fantastic.
And the reason they can go fantastic is because you have the support of the people. I always see people shouting out your YouTube and even reading in the comments are like, man, this is the best page in the game right now, blah, blah, blah. Could you have ever dreamed around 10 or so years ago when you're, spitting at Jorge Rivera's corner that the fans would love you this much? Because let's be honest, Mike, at some point they hated you. Like you were public enemy number one. Now you're like one of the biggest baby faces in the game. Baby face is a pro wrestling term, by the way. Good guy. I know you're not a big wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Did you ever think that it would turn out like this for you?
You know what, to be honest, it is incredible. It is crazy. And listen, I know back in the day, I didn't help myself. I had a lot of stupid things to say. Like part of my act was going to be the Matt Hamill fight. I'm like, and then I had my big fight in London and it was an incredibly close fight and it could have gone either way. And I should have said, wow, Matt, what a great fight, but that's not what I said. And then I had it already on the media. Here's what I said afterwards, because I acted like a total dickhead in that interview. And I was around a set of people. I was around a team back then that weren't necessarily a good influence on me. You got to remember, I'm 42 now. I was 25, 26 back then. It was a long time ago, and I have grown up and I have matured. And I think once I started also working on Fox Sports, and then obviously now ESPN and the UFC, people saw my personality a little bit and realized a lot of the time I'm just joking. But when things are written in print, you don't get the context. But more than anything, I was a dickhead. I was a dickhead back in the day. But I was a very different person. I was a fighter. It was literally my job to fight everyone. I had this chip on my shoulder. I really did. You know what I mean? And sometimes it was regrettable, the things that came out of my mouth. But fortunately, I've been lucky that I've been able to stick around long enough that I can change people's opinions. Because I look back and I see some of the things I used to say. I think, wow, oh my God, why did I say that? What was I thinking? What an asshole, what a cocky son of a bitch or whatever, So yeah, no, certainly some of the times I definitely deserved it. Some of it, sometimes I didn't, but whatever. That's just, when you put yourself in that box, when you become the heel or whatever, that's the way it goes.
Is there a moment that makes you really cringe if someone brings it up or you see the clip that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said this. I wish I could take this one back?
There's many. There is many over the years. Almost any old interview. But when I used to talk more like this, because when I see myself back on Ultimate Fighter and that, my voice is well changed.
Yeah. Why is that?
Has. And
is it because of America?
And I talk about this on my tour as well, because when I first moved out here, remember on the Ultimate Fighter, I used to be subtitled, but now I commentate the UFC. That's because I've changed the way I talk. Like I remember, this is on the show, but I went to a McDonald's drive-thru with Audiatar. And I said, can I get 2 coffees, please? And she's like, what? I'm like, can I get 2 coffees, please? She's like, what? I'm like, look, listen, I know I have an accent, but it's 2 syllables. Coffee, coffee. Can I get 2 coffees, please? They went, oh, you mean coffee? I'm like, yes, coffee. And then she says, what flavor? I'm like, what do you mean? What flavor? Fucking coffee flavored. She's like, we don't do coffee flavored. I'm like, you must do coffee flavored coffee. There's no way. She goes, we do vanilla, caramel, and strawberry. And I'm like, I don't want any of that. I just want a coffee. She goes, oh, you mean original? I'm like, oh my God, yes. And she's like, sir, you have a very strong accent. And then I say, well, guess what? Well, you're fucked because it's Darren Till and his teammates in the next car. Good luck with that one, you know. But still, there you go, because they couldn't understand me. So I had to tweak it a little bit. And I remember at Fox, George Greenberg.
Yes.
Was it George Greenberg?
Yep.
Yeah, George. He was a very nice man. And he wanted to send me to elocution lessons.
Wow.
You know, because of how I spoke. He said, Mike, we like your energy. We like your passion, but we're struggling to understand you a little bit. You got to slow down and pronounce your words. So by doing that, it's just subconsciously kind of affected my accent a little bit, you know? So, yeah, there you go. So there's my disclaimer.
Did you go to a professor? Did you go to like a teacher for this stuff?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not take advantage of the many, many wondrous opportunities that I should have done over the years.
Okay, but now you're fine. You don't like, no one says it to you now, right? UFC, ESPN.
No, that's right. And that's the thing. Like when I'm talking on a, you know, I'll overemphasize or punctuate certain words because you have to, you know. When I'm chatting with my mates, if I'm sat at a bar having a beer, yeah, people might not, you know, who was I with? So some people back in England on the tour, they're like, holy shit, your accent's got way thicker. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm with my people. Do you know what I mean? I can talk normally. So, but yeah, you know, things change. You get older, you know, you grow, you mature, you get a different accent.
These things happen in MMA, as Gus Johnson once said. In the UK, they always loved you. They would always run through a wall for you. They always supported you despite some of the controversies. Why do you think they don't? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you have a different take on this. It feels like now the top fighter out of the UK is Leon Edwards. I don't feel that same passion for Leon Edwards from the fans. And I think that's unfortunate because I think he's a tremendous fighter who's gone screwed over. If I'm being honest, he should have fought for a belt already, but that's neither here nor there. Why do you feel like they would go through a wall for you even before you ever accomplish much? And with Leon, it's been a little slower to develop.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's necessarily accurate.
Okay.
You know, he does have tremendous support, and I know Darren Till also has tremendous support. Obviously, Darren's, you know, he's fallen on some tough results recently, but his ride isn't over. He's still only 28 years old. Leon's incredible, you know, but he's a man of fewer words. You know, he's not a loudmouth. He's not a cocky idiot like I was. But also, I think just recently we haven't had an event in the UK for over 2 years now, so it's been hard to, you know, for him to feel it and for you to feel it. For everyone to feel it. You know, I think right now UK mixed martial arts is in one of its strongest places. I mean, at the weekend we had Mason Jones on. I mean, what is going on down in Wales? Jack Shaw and Mason Jones, some of the talent that's coming out of there is phenomenal. Paul Craig and some other Scots, Molly McCann, Leon, Arnold Allen. You know, a lot of these get Tom Aspinall. I think Tom's going to be a future heavyweight champion for sure. So UK MMA right now, I think, is at its strongest part. All we need is some UFC events back on UK soil, you know, to really give, you know, the fans what they want.
Jai Herbert is not going to be happy that you didn't mention him, number one.
Jai Herbert was incredible. Do you get me, bruv? Yeah, he was incredible at the weekend. My God, what a knockout. Shout out, Jai. Shout out all of you. Yeah, it's so nice because now, you know, when I was competing, because I've changed as a person so much. You know, Michael Bisping, the fighter, doesn't exist anymore. You know, so as I say, I've definitely gone soft in my old age. But now, and I hope I'm not overstepping them all, but I'm kind of like Uncle Mike now to a lot of these people. And I'm giving them advice. And, you know, and I love that. It feels great to be able to just not lecture them, but just give them a little bit of advice here and there on what to do in the training situations and on their opponents and things. Because a lot of people reach out to me via social media, and I'm always more than happy to give a little bit of advice and maybe get them on my podcast and try and bring awareness to who they are and their personality and all the rest of it. So yeah, I'm happy being old Uncle Mike of the UK MMA community. So it's nice I'm still involved.
Typical Mancurian move to omit the face of UK MMA, one Paddy Pimblett of Liverpool.
Oh,
didn't mention him. What is his ceiling?
Paddy, see, it's an embarrassment of riches right now. It is
amazing.
That's why. I mean, my God, a star is born with Paddy Pimblett. My God, what a debut and what a character.
What is his ceiling, though? Is he championship material in your opinion?
We don't know yet. That is yet to be seen. Of course, he came in with a stellar pedigree. His UFC debut went well. He got clipped a couple of times, but like my old boxing coach Mark Kinney used to say, you don't go in the rain without getting wet. You know, it's an MMA fight. Fair play. He got clipped, but then he got the knockout. I know he's got great grappling. He's got excellent jiu-jitsu, you know, but what is he, featherweight or lightweight? He's lightweight,
Lightweight,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably the toughest division, but certainly on paper, and he has the mindset. The mind controls everything. So Paddy has the confidence, he has the mindset, and it seems like he has the work ethic, even though I think he's ballooned up to like 220 pounds since his last fight. So he might want to stay off the bevies and get his fat ass back in the gym. But I'm sure he knows what he's doing. But I'm very excited to see the ride.
I wanted to ask you, you were cage side this past weekend in Las Vegas at the Apex. By the way, a side note before I ask you the real question I wanted to ask you there. The events at the Apex for you, I know they're very, it's probably very convenient, right? You're at the hotel, you walk over, you go back, it's all like this one little world. Do you miss doing the events at the big, like, are you tired of the Apex at this point? And again, the Apex has been a godsend. It's been incredible. Like the fact that they had the foresight to put this together, who would have known the pandemic, but it's just been incredible for the UFC. So I'm not crapping on it, but I'm sure there's a part of you as a broadcaster who misses, because you're doing these fight nights that don't have a huge crowd behind you, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the Apex, as you said, was such a godsend for the UFC, allowed them to continue pushing on almost every single weekend. And more so than that, gave the fighters and the UFC employees, it didn't affect anyone's bottom line. So it was incredible. And of course, great for everyone, including me. I still had a job. And yeah, it is convenient. I just drive down. It's 3.5 hours. And when the fight's finished, I drive home. Sometimes I get home at 1 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes it's 8 p.m., Wow. So I wake up in my own bed on a Sunday morning. Now, pre-pandemic, I might be going to China or Uruguay. I'd leave on a Wednesday. I get back on a Monday sometimes. And then on the Wednesday, I have to go again. So believe it or not, it's a little more convenient right now. Right. But of course, I want the pandemic to piss off. But I will say this, they've opened up to a select crowd now in the Apex. And they still run, that amazing highlight package that they show before the main card goes on and the crowd's on their feet. So it's like a weird, like little cult select fight club vibe in there now. And there is an atmosphere. At the start of the pandemic, you could hear a pin drop, which did bring a different kind of intensity to it. It definitely created a different dynamic. But now with the crowd, it's great, and I cannot wait to be back in front of a sold out arena.
So what's your take on Paulo Costa and the way he handled the week and the repercussions? Because at the end of the day, based on what we know, 20% for the way in which he behaved, to me, feels like a slap on the wrist. I think Vettori should have asked for 40 to 50% because he was so blatant about the whole thing. What was your take on all of that?
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to the fight in a minute because I take my hat off to both of them. What an incredible fight. And that's another thing. I find myself sitting there as a commentator now, looking at these fights just on the other side of the fence. And I'm blown away. I think, wow, these men and women are crazy, that they do this to one another. And then I think, you used to do that, Bisping, you idiot. Regarding the weight cutting thing, I'm always hard on people that don't make weight. Right? There's only two things we can control. You turn up in shape and on weight. If you're not doing that, you're not fulfilling your contractual, your professional obligations. You're disrespecting the sport, you're disrespecting your opponent, your team, and you're disrespecting yourself as well, So, I like Paulo. I'm a fan of his, and the way he carries himself, I have no issue with him. But that whole debacle was kind of inexcusable, and like he wasn't apologetic. He didn't really care. It was 195, then it was 205. It's not what you want to see, right? It was very regrettable, but it's in the past. Unfortunately, Marvin got the win anyway. Had he been beaten, I think I'd feel differently. And I feel like a lot of people, especially Marvin, would feel differently, but he got the win, and he got the win in an incredible fight. I mean, how Marvin Vettori took those shots, took that head kick. Costa was ripping to the body. Of course, Vettori outlanded him. He was working busier. But the big, nasty, disgusting shots that echoed around the bloody Apex when they landed all belonged to Costa. And he looked gigantic in there. Marvin's a big guy. He's a big, strong, scary dude. But Costa looked like the Incredible Hulk. He almost looked like Vito Belfort on steroids, but not quite. So like the Incredible Hulk squeezing his penis covered in veins. But, he was scary. But Marvin took all those shots and never took a backward step pretty much. I have so much respect for both men and so much respect for Marvin, the way he handled that whole scenario. He didn't complain. He didn't feel like a victim. He went out there, met him head on, right? And fought fire with fire and won an amazing fight. And fair play to Costa as well, because over 5 rounds, it looked like he was getting tired, but he continued to dig deep. And he did that against Yoel Romero as well. But this was 5 rounds, not 3 rounds, and he still pushed and he was still dangerous. He still had high output. Yeah, I was on my feet most of that fight.
I compared Marvin to you back in June, especially at the pre-fight press conference with Izzy. He was so emotional in that press conference, and I felt like it was almost like when you were early in your career, you would get very emotional before your fights. And then you look at your fight against Luke Rockhold at 199, the second one, you were as calm, cool, and collected as can be. I hope he learns, and I think that Marvin now has more fans than ever by the way in which he handled last week. I hope he takes a page out of you and of your book and realizes, hey, maybe I don't have to act so fiery. Maybe I can be, right? Like, there's some similarities there between the two of you and the arc of your career. I think at the end of the day, you will have had a greater career than him. That's no knock on him. You're just, I think, a better fighter. But at the end of the day, like, there's a lot that he can learn from you.
Yeah. And there's a lot that a lot of fighters can learn about controlling their emotions. Because part of the role as a commentator, we have fighter meetings on the Wednesday before. So we get to speak to them and talk about the training camp and all the rest of it. And I always see the similar kind of themes, the confidence, the self-doubt, the inner voice, the dialogue that you have with yourself. And it's always the same thing. And a lot of people, they want to speak to sports psychologists and therapists and all the rest of it. But a big thing is your temperament going in there. When I was young in my career, I used to close my eyes. I used to think about all the sacrifices I made. And I used to try and get myself mad and angry, because I knew when I was mad and angry, I was a force to reckon with. And that might get you through 95% of the people out there, but you're not going to beat the true elite. And I might have said this speech before, so I apologize if people have heard it. But, if you're in a mad, angry, frantic state of mind, you are never the best version of yourself. If you're commentating right now, if I'm doing a podcast, if you're doing anything, if you're with your wife trying to have a nice dinner, if you're mad and pissed off, you're not good at anything because you're acting out of emotion. And when you're going up against the best martial artists on the planet, you can't be acting out of emotion. You've got to be cool, calm, and collected. You've got to be in the moment, doing the right things, reacting for the right reasons, and it takes a long time to be able to get to that balance. And I think one of the first times was Luke Rockhold at UFC 199. And the clear display of that was beforehand, I was cracking jokes with Jason Perillo when we were in the octagon, as opposed to pacing up and down and looking intense. I just spat everywhere, by the way. And then it's okay, there's a screen. Yeah. And then when we squared up, I went to touch gloves with Luke. I'm like, touch. And he's like, no touch. And in typical Luke fashion, he still touched gloves. Not the smartest. but as he said, no touch. And as I was backing off, I said, no touch. I'll touch you in a second, motherfucker. Right. And I'm not just bragging because that was a witty line, because it was. But that just shows how cool I was in that moment to be doing little quips right before a world title fight starts on 2 weeks' notice.
Yeah, and now your best buds rolling around. I hate it, by the way. I hate it. I die inside every time I see you guys rolling. I want you guys to be bitter enemies. I want you guys to be at a card signing in 30 years, old men with walkers fighting each other. I don't want to see you guys laughing around and all this stuff. This is nonsense. Yeah. Come on.
It's all water under the bridge. I wish him nothing but the best. He's a good guy. I always said that about Luke. Look at his, I know you used to be friendly with DC, but now you've turned into a little backstabber. But when you were friends with DC's a great guy. And the fact that Luke and DC were such good friends for so long, that says a lot about Luke. We were just competitors. As I say, in the past when I was fighting, if you were in my division, you were my enemy, as simple as that. And maybe that was kind of a moronic, meatheadish view to take, but that's just how I was. I was going to step into it. See, like, I came from this, realistically, I always talk about doing traditional martial arts, but I came into this from a street fighting background, really. It's kind of a thuggish approach. And, I made the most of it and I made it work. So in my mind, if I was fighting you, it was on. It was on until the fight was over. In the hotel, if I saw you in the street, if I saw you in a restaurant, that's just how it was. That was my approach. If we're signed to fight, mate, then that's it. We're fighting, in every sense of the word until business is done. And yeah, Rockhold was a rival, but as I say, I'm a cuddly, warm butterfly these days, yeah. Or pussycat, whatever you want to say.
YouTuber, or you're a YouTuber. Who would have thought? Michael Bisping, YouTuber. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. I used to be cool. In fact, I've got the trophies in there to prove it. Coolest guy of the UK 2008. And as my kids always say, Dad, that was 2008. We're in 2021. I'm like, okay, shut up. You're right.
Two more quick things, and then I'll let you go. Speaking of your kids, how about Callum Bisping clapping back at Dylan Dennis, calling him Dildo Dennis? I mean, you must be proud when you see your son. Dylan coming on this program and claiming that he slides into the DMs, that your son says he's his favorite fighter. What's up with this dude? But good on your son. Good on Callum.
And good on you, by the way, because I saw you pull Dildo Dennis on his nonsense. His absolute nonsense, and you couldn't take it. He's like, I'm the most exciting thing and all the rest of it. And you were like, what are you talking about? You haven't had a fight in forever against nobodies. I don't even like talking about the guy because he's just a stain on mixed martial arts.
It was more about your son.
Yeah, he's just riding Connor's coattails, and he was talking nonsense about Callum. And Callum came out. He said, "I'm not sure what's worse, your lying skills or your striking skills." The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Callum is he's very witty. He's also very argumentative. Right now, he's home because he was supposed to be at the British Open, the wrestling tournament in the UK last week, and that would have got him qualification for the Commonwealth Games next year. But he's torn his meniscus. He's having surgery on Thursday, so he's home moping about the house, feeling sorry for himself. But thank you. I'll be sure to pass on the. I
love Callum. I will always go to bat for Callum, and he's an OG of the game. He was in the freaking ring throwing a triangle on you back at UFC 95 or whatever it was, 105, something like that. Dennis
UFC 70, he did a flying knee.
Oh my gosh, there you go. I mean, he's been around a lot longer than Dylan Dennis. Final thing, and you kind of touch it. I don't know if you were trying to get me to ask you about it. I remember us being at an event, and you pull your eye out, and you're like, look at this. And you don't tell anyone. Now you're pulling it out like for free in front of your YouTube audience. Why is that, Mike? Why do you, oh geez, now you just.
Well, it's not because I'm trying to bring attention to it. It's because I've come to terms with it, and for the longest time, because I've only had this lens, by the way, for when I did Hyperdrive on Netflix. Check that out if you haven't seen it, by the way. 2018, I think that was. Yeah, 2018, I got this lens. Prior to that, I had these corrective lenses that I would wear, and it had like a fake pupil on it, and it would sit in the middle, but it would always drift into the middle. So when I was at Fox Sports, I always had like a compact, a makeup compact. Anytime I went to commercial break, I'd pull it out, and I was always putting it back in the middle, because I was still fighting, and I didn't want to draw attention to it. And then people would make comments, and I'd be ultra sensitive to it. I was very self-conscious about it. Obviously, I've transitioned. I'm very lucky at working in TV and a little bit of film here and there. And I used to go for auditions, and I'd be so self-conscious. In the audition, I'm just thinking about my eye. Is the fake lens in the middle and things like that. But over time, you learn to live with this. And then certainly getting this lens, that was a godsend. It cost me $3,500, the best money I ever spent. This office by my house, they hand painted to match the other eye exactly. Wow. I've got to get another one done because my eyeball's shrinking, so it doesn't move quite as well. I've just come to terms with it now. I've come to accept it, and it's part of my story. It's part of who I am. And walking around like this used to cause me great discomfort. I could feel whenever I would talk to someone, they weren't looking at me, they were just looking at my eye. Do you know what I mean? And they weren't listening to what I said. And it's not all woe is me, but still you have these insecurities, and certainly when you're still trying to fight, and then this is a career-ending injury, it brings a lot of complications and difficulties and things like that. So, but yeah, it's a thing of the past now, and it's part of my story.
Your confidence in speaking about it is inspiring. And I think that fans view that as almost like this badge of honor for all the memories and all the great fights. Can you see anything out of there now? Like, is there if you close that other eye?
No, zero. It's black. If I cover that, I can't, it's just black. Wow. If the lights get turned off, the shade of blackness changes. When the light comes on, it might go from pitch black to like a really, really, really dark gray. But that's it.
What are you missing? Yeah, no retina? Like, what is that? What is the term that, like, what don't you have there?
Well, no, see, amongst the multiple retina tears that I had, the detached retina, pardon me, I got glaucoma. And glaucoma and the glaucoma was the worst day of my life. It was so bad. The pain was intense. And if you touch your eyeball, it's wet. There's always water going in, or some kind of fluid, I'll say water. And there's a drain in your eye. right? And glaucoma is when the drain gets blocked. And if you imagine a balloon on the end of a tap filling with water, what's going to happen eventually? Well, the balloon's going to pop. And that's what was going on with my eye one day. And I was face down on the floor, howling in agony. And to keep the story short, I went to 4 different hospitals that day. They shot a laser into my eye to try and clear the drain, sent me home with drugs. That didn't work. This went on a few times. And then at 3 o'clock in the morning, I had to go in for emergency surgery in Pasadena, howling my head off, howling. Wow. When I got there, I was like, motherfucking the nurses and everything, because the pain was so bad. And then they injected a huge needle into my eye, anesthetic, and the pain went. And I spent the next 20 minutes apologizing and begging for forgiveness because I was like a bear with a sore head, literally. And then they did a surgery where they put a drain into my eye. But when I came round from the surgery, they'd misplaced the drain and it kind of was interfering with the iris, which is the colored part of your eye. It's kind of like a gel disc. And the drain was interfering with that. And the iris was kind of getting mangled up. So I came round on the operating table and I started like, just like spazzing about on the thing. And they were like, what? The pain. I'm like, the pain. And sure, they put another needle in my eye and I blacked out. And then I came round the next day and I never saw out of that eye again. And basically, from my understanding, the pressure got so high, it just killed all the nerve endings in the eye.
Wow. Holy crap. That is insane. I mean, I feel the pain of you just talking about it, but I'm glad to see that you are in good spirits about it, talking about it. You're a freaking legend, Mike. We like to bust each other's balls, but what you're doing now is inspiring. Tales from the Octagon, the YouTube channel, the podcast, the commentary. You're a renaissance man. You do it all.
Blockacid.co.
The NFT, Playline, the acting. Gosh, you're putting us all to shame. Well done. And then you're working out, you're running, you're sweating, you're freaking hitting the bag, you're on hills. I mean, it's unbelievable. Well done. Well done, Mike.
Come on.
Thank you.
I'm trying, though. I'm trying. And you know what? To be honest, I love this. I love this sport. I really do. I'm so passionate about it. And I'm incredibly lucky because, for a former fighter, there's no better job than being a commentator for the UFC. You know what I mean? That is like the dream ending to a career. So I'm very appreciative to the UFC, of course, massively, forever. Owe a debt of gratitude to Dana White. I know he's not your best friend, but I've always had a great relationship and he's always treated me fairly and as a man. And so thank you, Dana, for that. And as I say, life's good. More importantly, family's healthy. Kids are healthy. I know it's been a tough time with the pandemic and a lot of people have lost loved ones. So more so than anything, that's the most important thing. But taking up enough of your time, Ariel. I feel like this is the end. This is bon voyage.
This is bon voyage for now. We'll do it again soon. I'll return the favor if you want. Thank you for doing this. This has been another edition of Ariel and the Bad Eye.
Ariel and the Bad Eye. Love it. Hey, always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, Mike. All the best. Talk to you soon.
Take care,
there he
buddy.
is, Michael Bisping, the absolute living legend, the pride of Clitheroe, the man himself, joining us.